This is a production of epic nature, the point from where going beyond the infinite limits is the order of the day. Many stories about nutrition have been spoken. Many have heard them and tried to put them into practice. But because of their scrambled nature, nothing valuable has always been realized. The reason why Epic Nature Media has come out to synchronize to you what you never knew for ages. Welcome. Let me take this humble opportunity so that I can share with you some very crucial information that I have concerning our own health. First and foremost, let me take this precise opportunity to introduce myself. By the names, I'm Kirowa Robert Omari. Have you ever tried to ask yourself why those people who used to live during those olden days used to live longer than nowadays? The most important reason that had enabled most of our forefathers and mothers to live for so many years was simply because of the discipline they used to observe, more especially when it came to taking their meals. The manner on how they used to prepare their foods played a very pivotal role when it came to the health of their own bodies. That is why they were able to live for so many years, and they were even able to withstand the many diseases that used to come on their way. Something that is contrary of nowadays. And the only reason as to why we have had so many cases of terminal diseases affecting individuals of nowadays, most that never used to exist during those olden days, is simply because of the manner on how they prepare their meals. That is why today I have thought it wise to take you through a brief session where I'm intending to educate you on some of those hidden secrets that used to enable our forefathers and mothers to live for so many years. And the information that I'm about to give is intended to help you to emulate what our fathers used to do during those olden days, so that you too can prolong your lifespan. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is about some of the most common weeds you've been seeing being grown around on our flower beds. And mind you, most people have been growing some of these weeds on their flower beds as some form of beautification, without knowing that there lies some very powerful medicinal properties inside some of these very plants they have been growing on their flower beds. So one such important weed that you've been seeing around is what we call the rosemary. The rosemary is a very small, unique weed by nature, as you can see on the screen. That magic small plant can do wonders on somebody's body. And what you need to know or understand is that most pharmaceutical products that you've been buying around from some of the renowned pharmaceutical outlets are manufactured out of this small magical plant without you knowing. So why can't we utilize that magical plant instead of us buying some processed medicinal pharmaceutical products from those joints you've been seeing around in the name of chemists? Because even this small magical plant that we call the rosemary can do wonders. So what are these wonders that we can expect out of this small magical weed? The only important thing that I would want you to understand about this small magical weed that we call the rosemary, the one that you can see on the screen, is that it has got some very powerful pain relieving agents. Pain relieving agents that can heal somebody who is suffering from pain, or somebody who is having pain in any of the parts of his or her body. So this small magical weed can do wonders. Where do we find this magical weed? If you are keen enough, you have been seeing people selling some flowers on our roadsides. If you visit those people and try to talk about the rosemary, definitely they will give you one. They will give you one, the one that you will go and try to plant so that you can reap the best out of it once it has fully grown. So how are we supposed to utilize this rosemary plant? The other thing that you need to understand before I proceed, there are so many uses that can be ascertained from this small magical plant that we call the rosemary. The most important or the most common use that you will see, those few of you who knows the benefits of it, is that it is something that you can make some very good tea out of it. There is tea that we call the rosemary tea, the tea that can make you healthier, the tea that can heal so many complications inside your stomach. So that is another basic use of the rosemary plant. Now, the reason is, how am I supposed to prepare this rosemary? Before you utilize this rosemary, first and foremost, you need to harvest those small leaves you've been seeing on that small magical plant. And once you harvest those leaves, then you are supposed to air dry them. You are not supposed to dry them on the sun. If you do so, then you are going to affect the medicinal properties it has. So in order for you to maintain those medicinal properties, you must to air dry that plant, I think for 2 to 3 days. So once you have air dried that magical plant, now you can use them either to prepare some powder out of it, the one that you will use to make a concoction that is being administered by whoever that is having pain, by whoever that is having headache, by whoever that is having a complication in his own body. So the first thing you are supposed to do, once you have air dried those leaves, you are supposed to bring a grinder that would actually grind those leaves into a powder. And once you've grounded those leaves, then in the long run you are going to have a powder that needs to be utilized when administering somebody who is having a complication of pain in his or her own bodies. So what are you supposed to do before administering that powder? The first thing you are supposed to do, you are supposed to boil clean water, and once you've boiled that clean water, then you are supposed to bring a cup. Make a cup of it, or drain some water, the one that you've boiled, into a cup. Then bring 1 tablespoonful of that powder that you've made out of that rosemary plant. Then cover that cup or the contents that you've prepared with a lid for 10 or so minutes. Once 10 or so minutes have elapsed, now you can sieve that contents and then give whoever that is having pain that concoction that has been prepared. And after a short while, that pain will be a forgotten issue. That is how you are supposed to administer that rosemary. And equally, we can use this rosemary as an appetizer, more especially when preparing those foods that have soup, especially when preparing meat. So it is advisable to put some, I think a teaspoonful of those rosemary leaves into the recipe that you've prepared of meat, and afterwards you will have a very nice flavor, a flavor that once it reaches inside your body will do wonders. The other major important use of rosemary is for beautification purposes. That small rosemary plant has some very strong agents, the agents that can enable the skin of your body to be healthier and smooth in nature. So how are you supposed to utilize that small magical plant in regard to healing the skins that have got complications? The first thing you are supposed to do, you are supposed to make a paste out of those green rosemary leaves, and I think it is supposed to be utilized when it is raw in nature. So once you've squeezed those leaves, try to rub the affected surface of the skin with those leaves. If you do so after some few days, you will realize that the affected area on that skin will begin to get healed. So that is another important use of rosemary plant, something that can make you not to use a lot of money going for consultations from physicians with some prescriptions of medicines that are being sold at exorbitant prices in the market. So for those of you who didn't know that this small magical plant can heal your skin, you can try it and see the kind of wonders it can do to your own body. If you continue doing so, after some time, people will come unto you trying to know the kind of medicine that you've used to heal those parts that are affected within the surface of your skin. So that is another area, another use of rosemary plant. Another important function of the rosemary plant is that it can improve our memory. Once you cultivate the culture of utilizing this magical plant on our day-to-day lives, you will be at an upper hand of having some very sharp memory. It has some very important and paramount agents that can trigger the cells of the brain, the one that can make one to have a very sharp memory. So that is another important function of the rosemary plant. It's a plant that looks very small, but it can do wonders when it comes to trying to improve your memory. This is a disease that has been affecting so many people, whereby you find them having some very funny memories, the ones that have even forced them to seek treatment in hospitals without knowing that that is something very simple, that they can do it right from their own homes. So that is something that can make somebody to have some very sharp memory. Once you do so, then you will be at a position of being among those people who can have some very sharp minds, some very sharp memories. Another important use of this small magical rosemary plant is that it can cure those women that have difficulties in conceiving. So once you utilize this rosemary plant, you will have an upper hand when it comes to conceiving. Most women have found themselves having problems when it comes to conceiving. So the most important medicine that you are supposed to utilize in order for you to make this process of conceiving achievable, then you must utilize this small magical rosemary plant. Once you utilize it, then you will have an upper hand in having conceivable cycles. There are so many people who have been dreaming to conceive, but without success. They have tried to visit so many hospitals, trying to unravel the reason, but without any form of success. So the most important plant that can make you to have some conceivable cycles, then you must utilize this small magical rosemary plant.